Here's the unflinching truth: ambition breaks halos. The purity and innocence society expects from greatness are illusions. Those who chase true power, influence, and legacy do so by bending rules, embracing morally gray choices, and building their thrones from fragments of what they've conquered, claimed, or even destroyed. Confession, regret, and guilt are luxuries for the timid. The audacious use their actions, their sins, as instruments of authority. Look at modern culture. Jay-Z didn't shy away from confessing crimes or shady past dealings in his music. Yet he sits at the front row of the Grammys, commanding respect, wealth, and influence. He built a throne from broken halos, assembling fragments of ambition, risk, and audacity into unshakable power. Society might whisper about his past, but his position, presence, and legacy shout louder. Confession becomes the final flex. It signals control, inevitability, and audacity. This video is about understanding that greatness rarely comes without moral compromise, calculated risk, and audacious action. It's about recognizing that your sins can be transformed into instruments of power, and confession, timed and controlled, is not weakness, but dominance. I'll confess on a throne built from broken halos. That's the brutal path to influence. Purity and perfection are illusions for the timid. The higher you aim, the more impossible it becomes to remain untouched by compromise, morally gray choices, or audacious risk. Ambition breaks halos. It doesn't ask politely. It demands sacrifice, cunning, and sometimes transgression. Those who cling to moral perfection while chasing power are doomed to irrelevance. Look at Jay-Z. His music openly confesses crimes, ambition-driven compromises, and morally complex decisions. Yet, he doesn't sit on the sidelines waiting for permission to succeed. He built a throne from fragments of risk, rebellion, and audacity, taking every broken piece of expectation or societal halo and converting it into influence and legacy. Ambition shatters innocence, but it also constructs power. The very acts society condemns often fuel the ascent of those bold enough to wield them. How often have you delayed audacious moves because you wanted to remain clean in the eyes of others? That hesitation guarantees mediocrity. Ambition isn't gentle. It doesn't ask for permission. It breaks halos, your comfort, your reputation, your image, if you let it. But here's the truth. Broken halos are the raw materials for influence, authority, and legacy. Here's the tactical reality. If you want to achieve audacious goals, you must accept that perfection is a trap. You must act boldly, risk judgment, and embrace morally gray choices when the payoff justifies the consequence. Ambition rewards results, not virtue. Every calculated transgression, every bold decision, and every moment of moral compromise, if executed strategically, becomes a building block for your throne. This week, identify one fear or moral hesitation that is holding you back. Commit to a calculated action that breaks it. Observe the results, and notice how ambition shatters limitations and constructs new pathways. Remember, halos break under ambition, but broken halos build empires. Power is never handed out whole. Thrones aren't gifted. They are built from fragments of victories, failures, audacity, and risk. Every conquest, every bold decision, every calculated transgression contributes a shard to your empire. The people who wait for perfection, legitimacy, or a clear path never rise. They linger in comfort, watching others claim power from the broken pieces they dared to wield. Look at history and culture. Jay-Z didn't inherit his throne. He didn't wait for approval or a clean slate. He collected fragments of opportunity, audacity, and risk, assembling them into a legacy that commands respect. Every morally gray move, every hustle, every ambitious decision, no matter how controversial, was a fragment of his empire. Power doesn't demand innocence. It demands accumulation, strategy, and audacity. Thrones are built from what the timid discard and what the bold repurpose. Power favors those who act with what they have, who gather fragments of experience, insight, and opportunity, and who assemble them relentlessly. Every setback, every compromise, every morally complex choice can become a building block if you wield it strategically. The world doesn't reward morality, it rewards results built from shards of audacity. Start viewing every fragment, every small victory, every calculated risk, every morally gray choice, as material for your throne. Stop waiting for permission, purity, or the flawless path. Assemble power deliberately, ruthlessly, and unapologetically. Your empire grows from fragments because perfection is a mirage. Only those who act decisively and repurpose broken pieces ever sit on thrones. This week, identify one fragment you've overlooked, an opportunity, a bold decision, or a morally gray action, and deliberately use it to move closer to your goal. Track the results. Notice how small shards accumulate into momentum, influence, and authority. Remember, thrones are never given. They are assembled from fragments, and only the audacious gather them relentlessly. Confession isn't weakness, it's power. The audacious know that revealing certain truths, admitting calculated risks, or acknowledging morally gray decisions at the right moment doesn't diminish authority, it amplifies it. Confession is the final flex. It signals control, inevitability, and dominance over perception. You decide when, where, and how others learn your truths. That timing is leverage. Look at Jay-Z. He rapped openly about crimes, ambition-driven risks, and morally complex decisions, yet sat front row at the Grammys commanding influence and respect. Society might whisper judgment, but his throne remained unshakable. Confession, strategically deployed, transforms vulnerability into control. It says, "I've done what you fear, and yet here I am, unpunished, unshaken, unstoppable." That is the audacity of the elite, the ability to own your actions, manipulate perception, and turn sins into symbols of power. How often have you feared revealing your ambitions, admitting your bold decisions, or acknowledging calculated risks? That fear is weakness. Strategic confession is dominance. Timing is everything. Reveal what amplifies your power, not what diminishes it. When executed intentionally, confession shifts perception, builds respect, and converts scrutiny into awe. It's not humility, it's control. Here's the tactical reality. Think of confession as your final flex. Seal it, time it, and deploy it to shape perception and command influence. Your sins, risks, and audacious choices aren't liabilities. They are instruments of authority when revealed deliberately. Hesitate, and the moment passes. Reveal prematurely, and you lose leverage. Done strategically, confession transforms audacity into legend. Your audacity, your morally gray decisions, your sins, they aren't liabilities, they are currency. The world rewards results, influence, and power, not innocence. Those who achieve greatness know how to convert what society calls transgression into leverage, opportunity, and authority. Every risk, every compromise, every bold move is a fragment you can trade to claim more of your throne. Think about Jay-Z. He openly rapped about crimes, hustles, and morally complex choices, but he leveraged those experiences into cultural dominance, wealth, and respect. The very actions that society might condemn became assets, symbols of his audacity, and proof that he could bend rules and still command influence. Your sins can operate the same way. The only difference between mediocrity and mastery is whether you deploy them strategically. To dominate, you must view your audacious moves, calculated risks, and ethically complex actions as currency, something to spend, invest, and compound strategically. Your throne grows from these choices, not from avoiding them. Here's the tactical reality. Calculate the potential payoff against consequences. If the profit, status, influence, momentum, or opportunity outweighs the risk, act decisively. Track results. Reinvest leverage from each sin into your next audacious step. Treat your ambition like a portfolio and your morally gray actions like capital. Use them deliberately, ruthlessly, and unapologetically. This week, identify one bold, morally complex action you've been avoiding. Take it. Track its impact. Treat the outcome as currency to invest in the next step. Remember, sins aren't stains, they are capital. Master the currency, and you'll sit on a throne built from broken halos, untouchable and unstoppable. Here's the unflinching truth. Greatness is never built on innocence. Halos break under ambition. Thrones are assembled from fragments of audacity, calculated risk, and morally gray choices. Confession and sins, when wielded strategically, are not weaknesses. They are tools of dominance, influence, and legacy. The world rewards results, not virtue. If you wait for permission, purity, or the perfect moral conditions, you will never claim your throne. Jay-Z didn't wait for approval. He leveraged every morally complex action, every audacious risk, every controversial move, and built a legacy that commands respect and attention. Confession, carefully timed and strategically deployed, amplified his power rather than diminishing it. That's the brutal lesson. Your actions, your risks, your audacity are your currency. Use them wisely. Convert what society calls sins into leverage, authority, and momentum. Now, let's make this painfully personal for you. How often have you held back, constrained by moral hesitation, fear of judgment, or the illusion of perfection? That stops now. Ambition rewards decisiveness. Thrones are claimed by those who act boldly, embrace morally gray territory when necessary, and manipulate perception with confession and strategy. Every calculated transgression, every audacious move, every fragment collected becomes a building block for your empire. Remember, halos break under ambition, thrones are assembled from fragments, confession is the final flex, and sins are currency. Master these truths, and you will sit unshakable, untouchable, and unstoppable.